so I'm gonna be trying something a little different today. And by that I mean I'm gonna read the Declaration of Independence until I either one, get bored, or two, my mom comes home. So, just wait, gonna go do something. Okay, I'm back. How do I spell it? There we go. I'm just gonna keep the weird pause in, because, okay. When in the courses of human advance it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among powers of the earth the separate and equal stations of which the laws and nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that they should declare causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, the governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers of the consent of the governed. I'm gonna have a heart attack. That whenever any form of the government becomes destructive of these, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem the most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that the governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to the right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and aspirations pursuing it invariability the same object evinces the design to reduce them under the absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide a new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and now it is now, and such is now the necessity which contains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and aspirations, all having direct objects in the establishment of absolute tyranny over these states. To prove, let facts be submitted in a candid world. He had refused and asked his assent to law, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless they suspend their own operation till the success to be obtained. And when he so suspended, he had utterly neglected to attend them. He had refused to pass other laws of the combination of the large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation to legislature, a right admissible them in formal materials only. He had called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the despotory of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into the compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing how many firmness of his invasion on the rights of people. He had refused for a long time after such disillusions to cause other people to be elected, whereby legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for the exercise of the state, remaining in the means of the time exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without, all convulsions within. He has endangered to prevent the population of these states, for the purpose of obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others news to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of the new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administrations of justice by refusing his absence of law for establishing judiciary powers. He had made judges depending. Who is he? He had made judges depending on his will alone for the tenure of their offices, for the amount of payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to arrest our people and eat up their substance. He has kept among us in time of peace standing armies without consent in the legislature. He has been effected to render the military independent and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to the acts of pretended legislations, for cornering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our tax trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases by the beneficial trial of jury, for the transporting us to the seas to be tried to pretend these offences, for abolishing the free system of England and laws in the neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging the boundaries so as to render it once an example to fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away charters, abolishing the most valued laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of government, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power of legislate for all in their cases whatsoever. He has abided the government here by declaring out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He he is at this time transporting large armies to the foreign mercenaries to comply with the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with the circumstances of cruelty and perfidy, perfidy, scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy to the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens and captured the high seas and uh, armed against their country to become the executioners of their friends and brethren and follow themselves by their hands. He has decided to domestic insurrections upon us and has endeavored on the brinks of the inhabitants of our frontier. The merciless Indian savages who known rules of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sex, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for the redress in most humble terms. A repeated petition have answered to the only repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in the attention of our British brethren. We have warned them for the time they are tempted by us legislature attend to an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them in the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties that were commonly kindred and disavowed. What are these words? These jurisdictions, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and our correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voices of justice and sense. We must therefore acquiesce the necessities which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind enemies in war and peace friends. Yeah, I think I'm done. I'm just gonna Declaration of Independence is no more. All we have left is South Carolina and Georgia. Good day.